You know, National Geographic is probably one of the best magazines you can ever invest in. And I use the word investment, and I do that deliberately because you learn so much. Right now, we as a country are in conflict as to who should have the benefits of the United States of America. On one side of the scale, you have a lot of people who believe that all Americans should benefit from the goodness and the productions of America. On the other side of the scale, there's a national movement that is perceived to be a movement that is advocating white nationalism. So there's a racial divide in the country. I mention this because we had a great war called the World War II. That war was not a war for profit, even war. That war was all about principles. Unfortunately, the freedom that they fought for countries in Europe was not extended to the people in the United States in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and here we are in the beginning of the 21st century, and we're still fighting for equity, for peace, for justice, for equality. We're still fighting that because of so many people who are really entrenched in their attitude of racism. It is not a good thing, not a good thing. But here is my suggestion. We grew up not to hate other people, but we were taught to hate. That's a fact. We were taught to hate. Well, since we were taught to hate, and it was an educational process, we can learn not to hate. And I know what I'm talking about. I used to be a cigarette smoker. I actually taught myself to smoke cigarettes. And then, eventually, cigarettes became a habit. Well, I had to go through school, smoke cessation school, to learn how not to smoke cigarettes. In other words, I went through smoke cessation school to learn to be a non-smoker. Not to quit smoking, but to be a non-smoker. I mention this because, trust me, a lot of people are harboring an awful lot of hate and resentment and very real and destructive racist attitudes. But you know what? They can change. Because they were taught to hate, they can also learn not to hate. I want you to think about that, because when you do, and in thinking for yourself, I think you will come to the conclusion that I have, that you can change. You can change. All you have to do is to think for yourself and choose to change. Choose to change.